All right, folks. Hey there, everyone. Hitesh here. Welcome to another awesome Saturday Live. This Saturday Live is tiny bit more special because now I've decided I'll bring more guests into the live stream so that they can share the experience, their journey of how the coding works for them, how the tech works for them, or how they are seeing the tech from a different perspective. And with this, we are on to the live again. Thank you so much. I can see all of your chats and notifications and everything. Thank you so much, Ankit, Murugaraju, Aditya. Welcome back. And we are streaming this on Twitter, LinkedIn, and YouTube as well, wherever you are comfortable. Feel free be there. Ask any question that you would like to ask. This stream is a little bit special because we have another guest here. So in the past, we have seen that we have bring in a lot of founders, co-founders, tech people, and all of that. This time, it's a pure techie guy. And the fun thing is, he's a veteran, and in both sense, in true veteran as well as a programming veteran, he's both of them. And he'll be sharing his journey of 20 plus years of writing code or helping people to write code or somehow monitoring the things that works on the code. This is such an experience, such an amount of experience that we'll be all having, and it's such an honor to have such guest here. I'm super excited, super pumped up for him. And yes, we'll be throwing up a lot of questions. If you have any questions, we really would like to say. And as the engineering Sampath says, Shubham says, the goat of coding. All right. That's a lot of enthusiasm getting up here. So let me first bring in here. So hey there, Wess. How are you?
Fine. How are you this fine Saturday morning?
This is a late Saturday night here. Good to see you.
That's right.
Good to catch up.
What's that? I didn't hear that last. I was still contemplating that it was nighttime there.
Yeah, but we are super excited to have you here. Especially, we have a lot of Indian audience, so officially India would like to welcome you here on this amazing platform of coding.
Awesome. I'm excited to be here. I thank you so much for having me and all the kind words that you said at the beginning of it. I'm just a humble bite slinger at the end of the day.
Thank you so much for here. Really, you have a lot of unique take and experience about the people because 20 plus years, that's a lot of time. You have seen a lot of technology coming in, going out, back coming in, back going out. You have a unique take of people. I don't really know how many times you have seen that, hey, programming job is dead, that kind of wave riding in and up and down. You're still here, shining, writing code. We'll go back onto this one. First, could you please show us a brief history about you as well? Because I know you have a really shining stars in your past. So can you please throw up a little bit about your life, that what you do and what you have done in the past?
Sure. So this could be a really long story, but I'll try to make it short. I am a very old man, so I'm at 43 years old. I started programming computers when I was 9 on a Commodore 64 in 1989. C was my first programming language. I traded my Nintendo Entertainment System, the original Nintendo, for my brother's computer just because I wanted to write code on it instead of playing the games all the time.
Oh, goodness. That's a sacrifice.
Yeah. So, and then high school, I wrote an operating system for a calculator. I did all my school's websites, and I just never stopped from there. I had a couple of interesting stories there that we'll share at another time that are kind of funny. And then after that, I was working on an open source project. I was doing some real estate websites, some basic stuff right before the big bubble pop, the first bubble pop. And then I joined the Air Force, the United States Air Force. And in the Air Force, I did some things that I can't talk about or I would have to wipe all of you out. And then I also started working on cryptography and communications engineering for everything from F-16s to ground control and stuff like that. Then I got caught up in an open source project called prototype.js, which is the precursor to jQuery. It was back when IE5 was still a thing. And then I got hired at Amazon based on an open source project. And then I just continued through working for startups, Fortune 50 massive companies. And then I even had 3 startups of my own that I built and sold. And then I got tired. I had 4 kids, started slowing down a bit. And after writing some firmware and asking some really weird questions on the Appwrite community, they were like, hey, you want a job? And I was like, yes, I do. So that's the long and the short of it.
Oh, man. Amazing. Just a couple of bullet points. You wrote an operating system. That's we are going to talk about in a minute.
I still have that calculator too. It was my first mobile device.
That's awesome. We will skip on to your service that you did for the country because I want to live and I want to ask more questions in the future. So we'll skip that part. We'll come back onto your journey and your love towards open source. And one fine question I would like to ask. See, a
Yeah.
lot of people, and especially the young generation, I'm also in that category a little bit. A lot of people
Just keep
believe
rubbing it in.
a lot of people believe that once you have built your startup, you have done the things, or you have taken a couple of exits, you should always be an entrepreneur. But that's not the case. Not everyone wants to keep on doing that hustle. Sometimes you want to settle down with jobs or want to contribute in a bigger company or all of that. So, what's your take on that? Once an entrepreneur, always an entrepreneur, or there should be a shift?
So I've got so me personally, I am still that entrepreneur. I will always have some kind of side thing that I'm trying on. Some really good friends of mine that I've grown up with, I've known for a long time, make me keep a notebook on the side of my desk where I write ideas down instead of telling them about those ideas because I get tired of hearing about them. So I think that but I do think that the entrepreneurial mindset also helps push us as developers forward because we're constantly thinking about that next thing. We're constantly moving towards that direction. And so it helps us when we go to work for startups like Appwrite, or it helps whenever we have our own, of course. And then it also helps whenever you go even to work for big companies because you're trying to push boundaries. You're trying to create new environments and trying to do new things. And it keeps you hungry for learning. So I think it's a very valuable thing to hold on to. And if you're not one, that's fine too. It doesn't mean that you don't have that hunger, that passion. This is just my personal take on it, that it has kept me hungry for staying on top of this. And like you said, I've been doing this for a really long time. And every time something new drops, I start learning it immediately. And because I like to, because I want to, because I want to be able to bend those rules and be able to be on top of those things the day that Rust dropped, for example, I immediately started it. I've learned 17 programming languages now. And I enjoy learning those languages. I enjoy that technology. And it's a passion of mine. And the entrepreneurial spirit, I think, is what also drives that.
Awesome, awesome. I get it. So, a couple of more things. Do you still write code?
Oh, yeah. Tons of it.
Okay.
I mean,
I know this
I've got a
already.
development folder full.
Yeah, yeah. I know this already, but I just wanted to put it in front of people as well. Now, here was a question that was thrown away at my Instagram that, hey, what keeps you driving and the exploration? Obviously, we are all interested in the programming, and all the people who are watching, they're also interested in knowing. But there is always a certain point in life for people that I'm bored. And it happened to me as well. When I was initially in the security domain, it was getting a monotonous, so I found development really fascinating and interesting at that point of time. Now, when the development is getting a little bit, probably I should try something, the cloud is getting fascinated to me. So this
Yeah.
happened to you as well, the transition, or how you keep your interest going on. So what's your take on that?
So, well, whenever I first started out in the industry, very, very first back in the early 2000s, and I was just doing real estate websites and things like that, I was a designer. I did all front end, was programming server side, bare metal, those kind of things. And my dad told me, whatever you do, don't let your hobby become your job or you'll learn to hate your hobby. Well, he's old school. And so I didn't listen like all kids do. And I decided to make my hobby my full-time job. And I never looked back. Now, what I do to keep going. So burnout's a real thing. And I always tell people that I work with or anybody that I mentor or help, I was like, you got to go touch grass. You got to get out there. You got to breathe air. You got to get your vitamin D off the sun and you got to have a good time. And you have to remember that this isn't it. The programming isn't it. And you can find new things. You can find new drive and motivation for being a better developer, for being a better person, or doing more engineering work and keeping that enthusiasm going by stepping away from it, because you'll learn to miss certain things or you'll learn to have these new ideas. So if I get really frustrated or burned out, in order to keep going, I always get right out and go outside and I'll take a walk around the block. I'll do it just for the day if I have to, or go play Pokemon with my kids or something like that, or try out or try a new website out, try something new out that I've never done before, which is why I ended up learning so many languages, is because I would get burned out on one. And then I found these cool things that I could do with these other things. Now my hobby programming is completely different than my day job programming. So for work, I do everything from PHP development, driver socket level development for Mongo drivers, custom made MQTT servers, whatever it takes in our language. And then when I get done, I use Rust or low level C to write firmware for 3D printers because it's fun for me. And trying to see what I can fit on there, like trying to see what I can do and break some boundaries. And if it doesn't work, it's no harm, no foul. If it doesn't, there's no boundaries to that. It's okay for you to fail. It's okay for me to give up on something. It doesn't hurt anything. It's not the day job. And that keeps it kind of going, because I'll go back and look at stuff and be like, oh, that's right. And it's continuing my education and my style going forward.
I really like your take about having the programming as a job and having the programming as a hobby, because this is something really a lot of people, and especially beginners, need to learn. That right now, what you're doing is learning programming is just your hobby. But once you go in and transition into your job, then your job might ask you to do, maybe you don't like Angular. And as a day
Yeah,
job, you have to write
I do
Angular,
not.
but yeah. And maybe you love React, but that's a hobby that you have to keep alive so that you are constantly updated with what's happening in the React ecosystem.
That's right.
I,
That's right.
I really like. One question we'll pick up from the comment section that's really interesting. There's a username known as Random Guy. He says, "What's your typing speed?"
Last time I tested, I was about anywhere between 108 to 110.
Almost. I'm
And
also on the same side. I also sometimes what people mostly call as monkey typing. I do that sometime. Guilty as charged.
I actually had to get, I used to use Apple keyboards, the really skinny ones and everything like that. And I transitioned back into a nice big fat mechanical keyboard because I needed to slow myself down because my errors were starting to get worse. And mechanical keyboards keep me at pace so that I'm not just sliding my fingers and stuff like that.
Exactly.
But like I said,
I just got this fat one here. So
I got this guy.
oh,
It's big, it's heavy, it's metal, and it keeps my keyboard still so I don't get shift errors and all kind of stuff. Like if the keyboard's, then all my typing gets shifted over by one.
that's awesome. Okay, a couple of more questions that I would like to take. The first one being the question is, okay, I have seen that you have a lot of interest in the open source segment. What motivates you to bring the Appwrite and the community of Appwrite? Plus, why you used PHP in Appwrite?
All right. So what was the first question was what brought me to Appwrite and the community?
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm on the spectrum, man. You got to make sure we scale them out a little bit. So the first question, I was actually a community member after I'd done some research. I was tired of writing back end. There used to be a company back in the day. It still exists, but they've kind of butchered it for lack, called parse.com. And it was its own company. Facebook bought them and kind of messed with it. Now there was nothing like that for me. And I've been writing so many backend services. And I was like, if I have to write one more
just to interrupt you a little bit, I was a big fan of Parse. And before Parse, like Facebook made it open source in such a way that they killed it. I was the guy who was most frustrated with that. In fact, it was the early Udemy days. I was making a lot of courses for them at that point of time in life. I was using Parse like left and right. There was no service like that. Firebase at that point of time was just getting started, trying to get a hold of market, but it was not close to the Parse, the services that were offered there. So yes, I can understand the pain and I feel you there. Please go ahead.
Yeah, I actually did some work for him. Takan was a friend of mine who was the founder. And so he was like, when he sold it, I was like, dude, what are you doing? This is awesome. He goes, it's Facebook and what they're offering. I can't say no to. I'm like, all right, whatever. So I got it, and I told myself, if I have to write one more user authentication service, Auth0 wasn't even that smooth for me. Like you get, the older I get, the less I have patience for certain things. I will admit to that. I get a little, my wife calls me ornery. But I started looking at, I wanted to build so I have a small 3D print farm. I have a little side company where I build cosplay stuff. I'm a cosplay nerd. And I do cosplay helmets and masks and stuff like this. So I have a little tiny 3D printer farm that I wrote all the firmware for. But the problem was I was getting very lazy every time I had to fix the firmware, having to go to these printers and flash all of them. So I needed something open source that could run inside of my network because this is not a thing that's public at all. And so I started looking around and I landed on Firebase. I don't like Firebase. I don't like people telling me how to program. That's my take on my opinion. All my opinions, none of these are reflective of Appwrite or anything of any company that I work for. But Firebase, there was if you have to teach me how to use your platform, like really teach me how to use your platform instead of just telling me what the SDKs or the APIs are, you've lost me. Because if I got to learn a whole new thing just to consume services, I'm not going to do it. It's not like a language to me. Platforms, they're different. So then I went over to Supabase and I was trying that out. And I was like, okay. And I'll admit this up front. I tried them. Appwrite wasn't the first one, but it didn't come up on Google first at the time when I was doing searches. And then I hit Supabase and I was like, okay, Supabase says they're open source. Let's try it out. And then it sent me over to their website to register for a user account. And I was like, what? Like, that's not open source. You're making me register
how does
for something.
open source work there?
Yeah. So I was like, I've been doing this a while. And last time I checked, you're just supposed to give me the code and then I can contribute to it or donate or whatever. But you don't make me sign up for an account. So I kept kind of diving in, and finally I landed on Appwrite. Now, to Appwrite was, because it was PHP at that point, and I tell you, I haven't written PHP code since 2004, 2005. That was the last time that I wrote it. Amazon, we bought a company. I was on their acquisitions team. So we bought a company called BookSurge, which was a print on demand service. It was all written in PHP. That's actually where I met my wife. She was a marketing director. And we were basically taking the PHP code and porting it over to Java. So I was using it for that and everything. And then we go over to, like I said, and then Appwrite comes back, and I was like, okay, it's PHP. And I was like, one benefit of that is PHP actually runs really small. Like it's actually pretty small for a scripting language. It's interpreted. Okay. And you know what? I don't mind. See if I can shove it onto this Raspberry Pi. And they used to have it's still a repository, but it's not talked about a whole lot. They used to have something called Appwrite Lite. And so I took some pieces here, and I took some pieces there, and I got it to run on Raspberry Pi, and I wrote some custom functionality to it. And then I could go and hit an API and upload, it was actually a curl script, upload this .bin file, firmware.bin file. And I had a Raspberry Pi Zero sitting in front of each one of my printers that would flash the Arduinos for using AVR, which AVR is the Arduino flash, or the flash stuff for flashing the firmware on there. It's their program for it. So, and that's kind of how I got to Appwrite. And I was asking some really bizarre questions about firmware, about IoT and things like that. IoT's kind of, there's my hobby. And they go, we should talk. Are you looking? I was like, yes, I'm looking for, I was working for a very huge fintech at the time. And I was just what you said. I was rutting out. I was getting burned out on just Angular all day long. And then also writing Flutter and Dart, converting their mobile apps, but it was so slow. The pace was killing me. I couldn't do these. You had to ask, and it was just wasn't fitting well for me. I'd been there for a couple of years, and I was like, yes, I need something exciting. And so talked to them for a little bit, and then here I am. Like, ever since I started out as just a full stack engineer. And then one day I decided to do a live stream, and now it seems like I can't get the camera out of my face, but that's cool. I like it.
Awesome.
Long story.
Yeah, but very interesting and very fascinating. So you wanted to kick back. Smooth life doesn't suit you much. You want that constant kick to keep on coming in, won't go further. Okay, a little bit outside of the tech. How's your boxing going on?
So it's slowed down. I boxed in the Air Force, and I was medically discharged, honorably discharged for an injury in 2005. Yes, 2005. And it slowed down. And I boxed, me and my wife actually boxed as a hobby, but it's not as frequent as it used to be. So, it's still there a little bit, still there once in a while.
Because I saw one photo on your Instagram. You're not that much active on Instagram, apart from your cosplays and your drawings. They're pretty nice, actually.
Yeah.
I saw your forearms, man. Oh, that is one evil, monstrous. Let me just bring you solo on the camera. Can you show it again, please? Yeah, that. Oh, goodness. Oh, man, this is amazing. So much. Okay, a couple of edge questions. Do you like JavaScript?
JavaScript is my darling. I've been writing JavaScript since, like I said, probably 1999. And
oh man, you're writing it from almost the version 1.
Yeah, and not only that, it also launched my career working on the prototype.js. It's worth a Google. Open source library really kicked it all off for me. And this is back when we had SourceForge and Subversion were what we were using.
So
Google
a lot
Code
of time,
just started.
I say to it, a lot of people that Python is good, Rust is good, but JavaScript is a money-making language. It easily launch your career, it easily launch your product. So if you want to do something crazy fast, go with JavaScript. All languages are great, but some have their edge.
Except for math. JavaScript and math do not get along well.
Yeah, that's one take. Okay, another edgy question throwing it to you. What do you think about these recent development in the AI world? I'm pretty sure you have heard probably many times that, hey, programmer jobs are going to die. How many times have you heard in your lifetime career that, hey, the jobs are going to die?
More times than I can count. And I survived the bubble. I survived the first bubble from the late 90s, early 2000s, whenever it popped and everything went crazy. I kept on pushing through, and you're going to hear this, and it's what people have to learn to understand. And by the way, I meditate every day, and I also do these things to kind of center myself, to realize that the frustrations of life, the frustrations of the things that you're talking about, all this new technology is great for us. It's amazing for us because it means that we get to learn how to evolve with it. So you have AI writing code. Okay. Have you ever tried to use the code that the AI writes? It doesn't work. It kind of works, but nothing else is. It's a teaching.
It
It's
just
educating
helps.
you. And not only that, I've been using it for trying to fill in code pieces here and there to try stuff out. It makes me describe what I'm doing. And as a developer, when I can clearly describe what I want, I no longer need the AI. Once I can get
Exactly.
my
If I can
mind
describe it, I
onto
can write it.
that's right. And then I'll hit enter to see how it does it. And it's not efficient, but you have to keep telling it. If I'm going to sit there and tell Chat GPT-4, hey, now do this. Hey, now do this. Hey, now this. And by 3 questions in, I'm like, I'm just going to do it because 10 minutes I was done. And I spent 30 minutes trying to get Chat GPT to do it the right way. So it'll get better, and we will too. We will evolve, but you have to be open to it instead of the developers who say our jobs are over, or the artists who say we're not going to have jobs anymore. Those are the ones that I feel like are not willing to evolve with the technology. And that's what's kept me alive. When Ruby on Rails dropped, they said that the PHP world was going to die. Whenever this dropped, Node.js dropped, they said that Ruby on Rails was going to die. And guess what? They're all still here. We're all still here. And so that human touch, that human element, our ability to innovate and evolve with the tech will always keep us on top of it as long as you're willing to stay on top.
Okay, a couple of questions. Maybe you can answer it, maybe not. You can feel free to pass. Is Appwrite also looking to provide some of the machine learning capabilities through their cloud or something? Maybe some. Are you exploring that kind of angle in the team, or right now you haven't thought about it?
Well, we got a lot going on. I know that it's been talked about, it's been mentioned. In fact, I think on dev.2, there's actually somebody who wrote a tutorial on integrating ChatGPT with Appwrite. But as far as formal integration goes, the idea is being bounced around, but nothing formal that I know of has come out of the conversations.
Okay, another question. I know there has been a lot of things going on with the app, right? You started with authentication, then database, started the storage, a lot of things. Among the storage and database and authentication and the cloud functions, which was the most difficult one to implement?
Well, for me, writing a Mongo driver, because we're trying to we're on this quest, which is a really beautiful journey, to support multiple database backends so that we can live in as many environments as possible. And I was tasked with writing a Mongo driver. They don't have an asynchronous PHP extension, and so we needed it to be asynchronous. And so I was tasked with writing a Mongo driver from scratch using sockets and PHP, and it was hair pulling out amazing. Like, it was one of the most frustrating things that I've done in a while. I was learning, and I hadn't used this language since 20 years ago. So I'm also like, oh, PHP, I did that too. I did the whole shtick that everybody seems to be doing now and then. As I'm writing this thing, I'm like, wow, this language has come a long way, and look, it's doing it. And so that was probably my biggest journey. Now I've moved on to do like creating a registrar so that Appwrite can do domain registration for you. I'm getting ready to dive into messages. And then, so it's a constant moving cycle, which is why being here is awesome. And it's also very valuable to me. It plays to my ADD very well.
Oh, awesome. That driver thing. I still remember when the first time I had to actually just interact with the drivers, not writing them. I had to interact with Crow, which is one of the C++ framework. And you have to, like, I was trying to teach the entire class that how you can use directly C++ using the Crow build framework and use the Mongo driver directly. And they're not friendly. They are not friendly at all.
Yeah. Mongo set out to be awesome. Like, and so I have a theory that's every tool for the job, right? Like, don't use a hammer to drive a screw, and don't use a screwdriver to drive a nail. Like, that's the whole thing. PHP has its place, has its job. Mongo has its place to do some stuff. Postgres will always be my favorite database, and because I can make it do anything. So there are so many reasons to have all of these things that whenever people just say they don't like something or not, is because they haven't had a situation yet in which they needed that tool. So Appwrite needs it because Appwrite wants to live in as many environments as possible. Let's say you're running your own startup and you've built all this cool stuff using MongoDB, and then you need to use Appwrite instead of using it as a full-blown backend service. You want to augment the services that you have and to create some of the basic stuff. Well, you don't want to install a separate MySQL database or a Postgres database. You want to be able to integrate with it. Your DevOps guys would hate you. So you want to like integrate with already exists in your infrastructure. And that's the goal. We really do set out just to try to fit in. And that was what I was talking about before. the SDKs that we have at Appwrite, I call that, and people laugh whenever I say this. They think about it for a second, but I believe that Appwrite's invisible. And it's meant to be invisible. We fit into what you're already doing, your styles, and I'm very style oriented. I tell on my live stream, I say, this is my style. You don't have to like it, but this is my style. Like, you can do it your way. And Appwrite was the one that I landed on because it was very close to Parse. Honestly, Parse kind of fit into what I was already doing whenever I was an Apple engineer. And so I was like, oh, look. And then I just started using it. And I was like, this is okay. And then I would do a Flutter app using it. And I was like, oh, wait, the SDK matches. So I didn't have to relearn anything across platform because they all match. And I don't have to do all of these, I call them greater than code, or the Hoouken, because you remember Ryu used to shoot the thing and it would knock them back, the people back, like it's the greater than sign. It doesn't look like all this callback stuff or all this crazy things that I had to integrate and all this pub sub stuff that was forced. I mean, I could use exactly what I wanted and not go beyond that. And so that really is what keeps me here and what brings me back. And what we're trying to do is, be invisible and just be there for the developer. And then, like I said, it also drove me because if I have to write one more user authentication service, I was going to lose it. I wrote more of those than anything.
All right. That's a really great take. I absolutely also loved Appwrite about it. I talk a lot about Appwrite on my channel as well. There's also one more video that I've already recorded, like how you can integrate Next.js out of the box, just this much of the code, and that's it. It works authentication out of the box. So I'm also doing on that. One thing I would like to mention to our audience who are watching this, yes, I'll be taking the questions from your stream and your questions as well. There's a lot of interesting thing going on, so much interesting that you forgot to hit that like button as well. So go ahead, smash them out, and we'll definitely be taking some of the questions from the chat as well. If you have anything interesting, after some time, I'll actually just totally give it to you guys. Just send up all the questions and everything that you have. I do have some of them. To get started with them, because some of them are from my Instagram. So I'll be throwing you all that questions as well. Okay.
And I got to interject 1 second. Make sure you go to youtube.com and do a search for Fresh Full Stack. That's my live stream that I do Tuesdays and Thursdays, 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. on Eastern Daylight Savings Time. So
I'll throw them in the description as well. And apart from this, if you'll see my tweet as well, I've actually tagged him as well. So go ahead, show him some love from India and tell him that, hey, we can throw in some traffic there.
Nice. I love Indian culture, by the way.
That's awesome. Okay.
I watch Bollywood and everything. I love it.
Oh, nice, man. A lot of people are saying they have done the like and they have also subscribed and followed you on the Twitter as well. Awesome, guys. Thank you so much for showering in the love that we always have from the Indian culture here. Okay, a couple of things. I'm asking you a lot about the Appwrite questions because this is currently... okay, how would you design a system which actually works on the cloud function? Because cloud function is one of the things which fascinates me from the day one. And especially because of my past career, I come from a security background. So that's one thing which always pinch me here and there always. So with the cloud functions, which I'm mostly worried about, I talked with a couple of VPs of Google Cloud as well, that how can a company really be assured that my function is running in your machine and it's not tracking any data and I'm safe. There is a safe sandbox which runs my function and destroys. What's the guarantee as a company for me that it's happening?
So first off, not with Google, nothing. With Amazon, nothing. I mean, they listen to your conversations on your phone. I'm just kidding. That was just rhetoric. So with Appwrite, we actually run your function in its own dedicated Docker image. It's a small Docker image, and we want to make sure that it's isolated environment. If you're going to set out to build one, you do it the same way that you would write a Python using Flask, or JavaScript, Node.js using Express, or, it's the same. You write it the way you would always write it.
That's awesome. Because this is the thing which I have heard from a lot of people, that they are worried about the security issues and cloud functions. In fact, a lot of security decisions by the CISOs has been taken based on, do you want to go into serverless or not? Because a lot of people don't understand this and don't really believe that a lot of people, when they go serverless, they save shitload of money. One of my friend who was a founder of a website known as A Cloud Guru, really famous, especially in the United States, it's really dominating. They sold them recently. They got exited from the Plural side, I guess. They were 100% on this cloud functions. And they said for the first initial 1 or 1.5 year, they didn't pay a single penny to Amazon.
Well, Well, yeah, you can find ways around that. So there's actually a website out there where you can say that you're going to do, and it'll roll your images for you so that you can kind of stay on the free tier as long as possible. I've also heard the opposite too, though. 37 Signals, DHH is a famous guy, invented Ruby on Rails and Basecamp and all those things. And
He hates it.
his bill
He hates it.
his
He
bill was
loves.
so high.
He says monolith is the way to go.
Well, not just that, his AWS bill was so high that he put it back on the bare metal and saving a fortune there too. So it's like, where does it? I have no idea. Honestly, I'm not a DevOps guy. I never really got that far into it. It took me a while to even learn Docker. But I will say, like, our serverless functions for Appwrite, my take on it, and it's my take on it, but to me, serverless functions are a feature, not a platform. And I've always seen them that way. I could be right, I could be wrong, but that's just how I've always noticed them. Like, I did a whole presentation and I went around and did a whole talk on microservice architecture. And I love microservice architecture, by the way, but I do it differently than a lot of people do. And serverless functions to me is a feature of that, where you just want to add a little bit of extensions, but to build an entire thing on it seems like it probably saves up front, but I guarantee you that as they start getting more and more, that's a lot more machines that you have to run, because as it sits right now, serverless functions are all isolated Docker or containers of some sort, whether it's Firecracker or Docker or Containerd or Cato or all the bajillions that are coming out now. It's still running on resources that are going to be pre-allocated, because Linux is not going to run without the resources pre-allocated. So you're running a full machine. So at some point in time, you're going to need either a whole lot of machines or some big machines. And that's a good problem to have. But at the end of the day,
When the paid customers are making those requests, then it's a good problem to have.
It just depends. Yeah, it is a good problem. And it's just an idea that you've built everything without a backbone to it at some point in time. So look at it as a feature. I want to extend Appwrite to go out and do some GPT stuff. I can write a function to do that.
All right.
But everything else is still solid and holding tight, and I can count on it to be there all the time.
Okay, there's a question from Eldridge. He says, minimum years of experience for joining Appwrite as SDE. Are you guys still hiring?
Yeah, you'll have to check out appwrite.io/careers. When they let me out of the dungeon to do things like this, I have to go back and kind of refresh myself on it. But we're always taking submissions. We're always talking to people. So.
Awesome. Any plan of hosting any conference or something here in India?
Hey, fly me out. I'll come do anywhere you want.
Oh,
I do a whole lesson. I just got done with Render Atlanta in the United States, which was huge. It was massive. It went over really well. And also I'm working on a little bit of some educational stuff to kind of help people go along, kind of shifting gears from being a full-time engineer to starting to use all of this knowledge that I've amassed over the years to I want to start getting more into helping people out and teaching people some cool ways to do stuff. So,
okay. One more
take. If you want me to come talk.
Sure. I'll definitely talk to Eldad about, hey, can we have you here flying down here and have an awesome talk with a couple of other people? I'll definitely talk to the great man, Eldad. I'll probably try to bring him in the stream as well once we all get free. So hopefully very soon. He's a cool guy. I love him. His approach, aggressiveness.
Yes, he's awesome.
Yeah, his
and he wrote all of the first version of Appwrite on his own.
I know that. I've talked to
by himself.
I have talked hours and hours with him. He's such an amazing guy. Okay, one more thing. We have talked about this, but I want to put it in front of the people that there's always a sense when, especially when you're getting started as a programmer, what do you think that learning just one thing and sticking to it for 10 years or expand yourself as much as possible? What's your take on this one? So what do you, like, if I just have to rephrase it, what do you recommend the beginners who are getting started? By the beginners, I mean just learn their first language, have built their first product or website, and that's it. I don't know where to go from now here. Where should I focus? How should I learn? I'm worried about the chat GPT and all these things. Sometimes they demotivate me. So tell me, what would you have tell yourself 10 years younger? So for you, in your case, 20 years younger.
So this is a loaded question, because I know people out there who have stuck to the same thing for 10, 20 years and they're very successful and they love what they do and they love it that much. And that's great. My tagline on Wess.io, my site, is application development disorder. And there's a reason, is because I like to do different things. So I think this is a very personal question, and I don't want to answer it for everybody else. What I'll say, though, is regardless of which direction, which path that you want to take, I would suggest is get a target. Find a target. And I'm not talking about this grandiose, I want to build Zelda, or I want to build this massive role-playing game, or this super e-commerce platform that does all this stuff to take on Amazon. I'm talking about, I'm going to build a to-do list. I'm going to build a photo app that all it does is I upload a photo and it shows a photo. I'm just going to build a website to say hello world. I hate hello world, by the way. That's a whole different conversation. But do something and put a target on it. And then whenever you hit that target with one thing, if you really liked what you did, then keep doing it and keep growing that target. Or then you'll say, hey, I like this. I know this. If you're like me, or my personal take on it is, I hit the target with one thing and then I move to my next language and I try to hit the target with that. I use to-do list is always a good one because it gives you the CRUD and database, all the pieces of it. User authentication systems are actually really good because you don't have to think about the logic behind it. And so what I do when I want to learn something new is something that I've done before. So I don't have to think about the why and the where. All I have to do is think about the how. Like, how am I going to write this? How am I going to use this language? But I like to, when we talked about a long time ago, long time ago in technical terms. When I was 15 years old, I promised myself that I would learn everything possible. And I'm still on that feed. I'm the master of none, expert of some. So I'm going to continue down that path. And that's my take on it. Now, if you really like something, keep doing the one thing, keep doing it. My ADD just doesn't play to it well. So.
Okay, one question from the LinkedIn is, do you still write documentation?
Oh, tons of it. And that's what ChatGPT is for.
Ah, awesome. So ChatGPT is helping you to write the documentation. All
Help me to
right.
remember it.
Another question.
I lost you.
Another question. Am I audible now?
There you are.
Okay.
I couldn't hear you. Yeah, there you are.
Yeah. So another question is, what's your thought on Web3? How is it going right now in the US market? I think you can tell the US market better than me.
Web3 being like, you mean your Ethereum platform, your like all the crypto stuff?
Yeah, from the development perspective, not from the I make money for it. No, from the developer's perspective.
I don't think we don't really know what to do with it yet. That's my opinion. Like, NFTs seem cool. It's collecting stuff, but I mean, really, like, a value was placed on something that we didn't really quite understand where it could go. Ethereum is a beautiful platform. I think it's done very well, but I still don't think we know exactly what to do with it. But I think we're getting closer. I did Solidity for a little bit as a hobby to try it out and stuff and to learn it. And I kept getting the sense that I wasn't real sure where it was going at the time. I know that's a pretty vague answer, but because I'm still kind of waiting in the wings to see exactly where it's going to take off. To me, it was never about earning money on cryptocurrency or anything like that. I always looked at it as a platform.
All right. So one question is from another amazing guy, Anirudh. He says, do you feel anytime I have hit the saturation point of learning, doing something daily over and again, how can we break out that bubble? I think he joined a little late. We actually talked about.
I can't hear you. Just a heads up.
Maybe.
There you are.
Okay. So probably he joined a little late because we discussed about this quite a while. One thing I truly, truly appreciate about you is I don't know how much enthusiast I will be at that age. I'm very positive about it. I'm right now very enthusiastic. I want to stay this much with this energy and keep on learning because that's the one thing I love. But really, man, from the personal take, I truly appreciate your enthusiasm about the coding and community and what kind of hunger you have to learn and keep on learning. And now you're moving towards the conferences. I'm pretty sure there is somewhere in your mind that, hey, I have to write a book as well one day. So it's really, really amazing. Thank you so much for that.
I don't have the patience to write a book. I'll write code.
I tried it actually twice and failed both times. I said, I can do it faster in videos.
Yes, exactly. So.
And now it feels like instead of, if I was initially planning to write a book on React Native, and for that I was preparing the material, so I started recording that again, and now it's a 50 or 60 videos playlist on my channel, and I says, hey, this is my book now.
That's right.
In the original audio.
I would love to have a book on the shelf somewhere, but I would rather write an app and then show people how to do it. I'd rather talk my way through it. I mean, that's what I do anyways. So
Okay, so now we are going to be taking questions from the comment section as well. So throw them as much as you want. Wes is known for having a lot of fire at him, so no worries at all. He can handle any questions that you would like to have. So first of all, a couple of questions. One is from Dixit. These are all directly from the community itself. Is Appwrite Doc beginner friendly, or we need to read some vlog video? I can answer that. You can watch my videos.
yeah, go for it. There you go. Or you can go to Fresh Full Stack. Check it out. I'm building.
You can go to
photo
Fresh Full
sharing app.
Stack. And by the way, the documentation, the approach of Appwrite is pretty easy. Once you understand the basics of it, that hey, you have to just grab an object, connect the database, and then it's all about writing .create, .session, .delete session, .database. That's it. I find it easy. Okay, another question is Appwrite easily integratable with Flutterflow?
I don't see why not, considering it's just an API. I know I've tinkered with it with AppSmith and some of the other ones. I've not used Flutterflow, but anytime they allow you to define a pipeline, which most of these no-code, low-code things do, then I think it's solid. I think it shouldn't be too hard. It'd be worth a try. Maybe we can do a video about it or something one day.
Sure. Utkarsh is asking, what are you learning right now?
Right now, it's actually not programming related. Right now, I am working with urethane and molds and stuff, and trying to learn how to do movie quality castings and stuff for costumes. I'm a huge Batman nerd, so I'm making a full blown Batman mask and suit.
Oh, that's
so
detective.
I'm trying to
that's detective.
Get into some chemicals. Get into some chemical stuff. But other than that, the language that I was looking at right now is Blade. Is the next language I think I'm going to kind of tinker on. It just came out. It's early stages. So just kind of feeling out the world to see how it's going.
All right. Next question is from Eldridge. He says, what technology do you think will be in trend for next coming years? You have a lot of luxury to actually predict the future. You might have done this in the past as well. So what's your take right now? And we are all okay if you go wrong.
I honestly, do you say the next 10 years, 5-10 years? I don't know how much more I think we're going to start moving into Neuralink type stuff. Honestly, the medical field is going to start picking back up again. Elon Musk has done some great things with Neuralink. I know there's mixed emotions about all this stuff, but I look at it as it's the next 10 years is going to show a lot of advancement in space and medical. We're going to be able to continue what we're doing. AI is going to continue to be part of life. We're going to evolve to how we incorporate AI into our life. But other than that, I'm really anxious to look to see how the medical and space travel. I'm a space nerd too, so just kind of seeing how that goes as technology is getting more and more integrated into our lives and into the health of our time.
The health space is improving quite a lot, and when I look from 10 years before then and what right now is, I think one thing which has improved our quality of life a lot is the injection of the technology in the medical field. That's on next level.
Yeah. I know that like our abilities to a surgeon to be able to use his fingers in China to operate on somebody in Sweden, like these are the kind of things like specialists are going to be widespread. Instead of having to fly all over the world to get these things done, the technology will start being there, and then using AI to help augment some of that to make sure that it's being done precisely. Like that's how I see AI coming, not AI coming to take over programming jobs to build cheesy websites or web apps, but to integrate into things that really could assist us, could really help us. And, all within some boundaries. I have watched a few movies that it gets terrifying, but I think that right now we're on the right approach for that. We just need to slow down a little bit, honestly.
Oh, this is a question asking for you only, that you can answer only. Do you still get self-doubt, and how you get out of it? Like, you might have been into self-doubt for longest than anybody is watching here.
I have wicked anxiety. Actually, I have anxiety disorder. And I also, imposter syndrome is a real problem with me as well. And for me, it's less about I'm trying to think of the best way to phrase this. It's about the people. So programming, I have been very fortunate in my career to surround myself with very brilliant people, but it also intimidates the shit out of me. Because I want to try to, and it's not that what I have to make myself, I have to take a step back and take a deep breath. See, it's making me anxious thinking about it. See, I have to take a step back and take a deep breath and say, yes, they're incredibly smart, but they're incredibly smart at this, and they can help me learn this and help me be better at this. Now, how can I do the same for them? How can I give it? Because I know how to do this. I've done this 100 times. And just because I'm doing it next to this person doesn't mean that I'm going to do it wrong. And it's very, very hard. And I'm very transparent about this on every social media platform, but I'm also on the spectrum. And so my emotions are amplified very heavily. And so whenever I feel that way, I almost have to stop, take that walk that I was talking about, take a deep breath and come back and let them know, hey, this is what I'm thinking about doing. And then talk to, because what I've learned is that 90% of the people that I've worked with or talked to are very, very receptive. And they're very like, okay, cool. Let's take it a step back. Because if you throw way too much stuff at me, I get very, this is when it gets, it's like, they're expecting me to do all this stuff. I can't do all this stuff. I can't do this. I can't do this. And then I've learned in time that I'll take what they give me and I'll break it down into very tiny parts. And those very tiny parts are very important to me. So, and that way I can overcome that, because those little victories will start building you back up again.
Oh, awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much. And what I've found common is this is exactly the advice that has been thrown to me from a 4 years developers experience, 5-year developers experience, and now from a veteran like you. Break down your problem, and it's okay that other person knows a lot more than you. You can take a step back and learn from that. That's exactly the gist of advice always that has come around, and I think that's valuable. But I totally understand, as a beginner, you are getting started, you just want to ask this question, want to feel good to comment from different mouths. That's how it all goes.
Yeah. Early in my career, I was probably I'm still an annoying person. I still ask constant questions. And I know people are like, dude, you've been doing this for how long? And I'm like, well, no. But I'm trying to do it this way. Like I'm by being a polyglot, I live in the environments in which I'm in, but I will ask a lot of questions to stay in that environment. I mean, even Appwrite, Torsten, who is one of our leads, I sit there and I've peer programmed with him, probably talked his ear off, trying to make sure. And that's how I work through it. And but I let them, ahead of time, hey, on the spectrum in ADD, I need to break this out. Let's go through it. Can we work together for a little bit? And they're like, yes, that's fine. But then you start building up that momentum and you start getting over it and you're fine. And it doesn't matter. It's your first day of programming, or you've been doing it for 20 plus years. It doesn't matter. It's the same feeling. It's just a confidence thing. And it's not confidence that you don't know how to do it. It's confidence about where you're doing it, or where you're doing it and who you're with at that time, I believe.
All right. There is another question from Rushikesh. I think you are the best guy to answer it. What tech stack is used in Appwrite? I think he wants to know about the Appwrite cloud, because Appwrite is open source. You can just look.
Yeah. Go to Appwrite. Go to github.com/Appwrite/Appwrite. Right now it's MySQL, but it's PHP, Svelte for the console. And we even developed our own PHP framework called Utopia, which is also open source. github.com/utopia-php.
Nice name there, Utopia.
Hey, Eldad named that thing.
Is it really utopian, or you sometimes face some danger there too? Or is it all utopian?
No comment. Since he wrote it. I'm just kidding.
Probably need to get Eldad directly. Man from directly need to ask the man, hey, is it really that utopian?
Yeah, exactly. It's not Nirvana. So, but no, there's always going to be issues in everything. So it does the job. It does it well.
All right. Somebody wants to ask the tech stack of Appwrite, which cloud you're using specifically?
We're using DigitalOcean.
Oh man, nice.
That's what Appwrite Cloud is hosted on. Yeah.
Ah, nice. So. It's nice, less managing and stuff. Okay.
Yeah, Appwrite
very
Cloud
interesting.
is built on Appwrite.
Yeah, very interesting question. Any features upcoming in Appwrite to support audio video streaming?
Not that I know of. So I get that across.
Okay, I got it.
What I would encourage people is, if you join our Discord every week, we do a office hour.
Hint taken. I just wanted to ask it from you because I'm aware of it. I'm on the Discord, so I see a lot of buzz there. I always get that. Somebody is asking about the logo behind you. Look like some, as you can see, branding at its peak.
That's right, and Lego. So,
awesome. Oh, that's nice. Ishan wants to ask, can we go back to Appwrite self-hosting rather than a cloud via migration, or there is a vendor lock-in?
It's Appwrite. It's 100% open source. How do you lock in something that's already open?
All right, awesome, awesome. It was just coming up directly, so
And
wanted to ask directly there.
we're building a migration tool, so it's going to make it even easier for you to move
Oh,
on or off the
goodness, man.
platform.
Migration tool as well. Like, hey, this is open. You want to go out? Here is the way. We'll help you in
There it
that.
is. There it is. There it is.
All right. Okay, so let me just check more questions. I think we have answered all of them. Let me just check on the LinkedIn as well. A lot of people are joined in on the LinkedIn as well. Pretty good. I haven't checked the Twitter. Let me check that as well. There's so many
Do the
platforms,
paste.
man. There's
I
so
know.
many
It seems like if only there was an app that would bring them all together
Yeah.
on Appwrite. See, idea. I got to go get my book and I have to write this down.
Probably.
And nobody can make fun of me because I have to use reading glasses. So
Yeah. Probably I can make a tutorial of how you can use Appwrites and the different APIs to bring the streams all in. And then with just one click, you can do socket IOs and real-time question. I'll think on it. I've started my train.
So yeah, there's a ton of stuff. Something happened in the house that kind of threw me for a loop there. Like I said, the ADD, I get distracted by things and move on. So I didn't hear that last part. I apologize.
Yeah. So, okay. Okay. Oh, very interesting question. What do you use on your desktop? Is it Linux, Mac, Windows?
The last time I used Windows was in 1998. I immediately installed Slackware Linux, and I used Slackware up until 2004, 2001 when I bought my first Mac. And I do use Mac, and I don't use Mac because it's Mac. I use Mac because it's very pretty Linux, or BSD. Sorry, it's based on BSD, and I'm a huge BSD nerd.
Exactly same thing happened to me as well. I have used a lot of Backtrack. I've used a little bit of Kali because when I was transitioning, the Backtrack was almost dying. It was a good Linux, not very stable one, but pretty good, did the job. And a lot of people say, hey, you use a Mac because it's shiny. It's all, no, man, no, we don't use Mac because it's shiny.
You get a terminal.
Terminal works, and it works like, I don't feel that I'm into an EC2 Linux or maybe on DigitalOcean. I'm just on that one screen, and if I open the flap, it works. That's why I use it.
I use it because I have terminal. I have all my terminal commands. I'm a Vim guy. So I got everything that I need in a Linux BSD style environment, but I can also run apps.
Okay, favorite
Like
code
I don't
editor.
have to fight drivers.
Okay, one question from my side. Favorite code editor?
For me,
Yeah,
Vim. It'll always be Vim.
just pure Vim, no versions, no flavors, Vim.
I like VS Code. I think Microsoft's come a long way since the days, but I remember I got hurt pretty bad by them early on. So back in whenever Ballmer was around, let's say. But I've been using Vim for a while. I've tried Emacs out. Nano is always good, which used to be Pico, part of Pine. So it goes way far back, but I'll jump in Vim pretty quickly for most things. I got a super customized, I think it's over 1,000, almost 1,200 lines of bash script now that define my environment. Vim's in there. VS Code is nice. I mean, I can Vim bindings with VS Code. So it's kind of wherever I need to be. I don't like Java-based IDEs that I can like start the IDE just to write code. I start the editor and I can go like make lunch. When I come back, it's still like just finishing up. So I like them lightweight. I like them fast, and I like some syntax highlighting.
That's awesome. Probably we need to talk more about the Vim when we'll call another guy, which is rising on the YouTube, Primogen. A great guy, makes really fantastic, interesting videos. Probably we'll bring him some thoughts about Vim or something. We'll hang out more onto this. Okay, one more thing. What do you think about the hackathon? Did you also like it, the recent one that Appwrite did? What was the final outcome of the Appwrite? What's your thought on it?
So I don't know the outcome yet. I'm gonna be honest. I've been pulled into other things. But this is going to sound crazy. I've never done a hackathon. I've never participated in one. Now I've helped out with this when I've gotten to do the Q&As and got to give some mentoring here and there and help that out. But I think they're awesome. I think it's an incredible way to really motivate somebody to move. And then I go and look at my dev folder, which is where all my hobby code, my little hacking things are here and there. And I'm like, you know what? I could have finished some. If I finished these, it'd be great for a hackathon. So I think it's awesome because it gives you motivation. It gets an urgency to it to get you from point A to the finish line.
Yeah, that urgency is pretty good in the early of your career, because once you move past the 10 years, then those small monetary benefit cannot really be the only motivator for you. In your beginner career, if somebody would have offered me $5,000, $10,000, I would have given it all in. But I think now at this point, money is probably neither the motivation for you, neither for me. It should be more challenging. The challenge is the motivation.
Yes, that's it. And it's just the urgency that behind that challenge. So it's like, I can do this. And also, I mean, it's a good exercise too. And what we talked about earlier, getting over that imposter syndrome or those anxieties, because if you can deliver something in that small amount of time, even if you don't win or whatever, but if you should be so proud of yourself for building something and releasing something at a hackathon that you should be able to walk into anywhere and be like, well, I did that. I was able to, it took me a week and I built this app in a week. One of my startups that I had was called Pocket Vendor, and I built the app in 3 days. It was an iPhone app and an Android app. And I did it natively on both of them. And I built it in 3 days because it was only 3 views. And I was so happy about it. And then it took off, because that's the thing. I think hackathons also give you this way where you have to scale down all your ideas into this one really cool thing. And by having that small, cool thing, it's so much easier to reach that goal. And then it amps you up and it gets you going. I love to watch it.
All right. So one thing that I'll do is I'll ask probably Tessa or somebody from the Appwrite team that we need a list of probably your top 10 or top 20 of the, because obviously the winners are going to be, let's just say, top 5 or something. But I want a little bit more of the list, that here are my top 20 list or something. We'll probably do a review or reactions on what people have built. I'll prepare something and probably we can bring you again and have another live stream in which we'll probably give some advice, or we'll be happy that you have built it, or is something like that. So I think we can really try that out.
Awesome. Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Okay, so I think already we have passed a lot of time up here. So I would like to now just have a closing note here, a couple of things from your side as well. All right, so first and foremost, thank you so much everyone for joining this live stream. And if you think that this live stream was amazing, full packed of the knowledge or something, then please do share it on LinkedIn, on Twitter, on Instagram, make a story, share it out. A lot of people need to hear out these experience words from the people like Wess as well. So please don't hesitate to share it out. You share a lot of fun. You'll share a lot of memes. Sometimes, once in a while, just share these kinds of live stream as well. It motivates me to actually bring in more guests, talk more about it. It takes efforts to set up the streams and have a conversation. It takes efforts. One thing that I would like to ask you directly is, what is that one advice that you would like to give to a person who is anxious and just getting started, probably learning or trying to learn his first language, worried about the market and jobs? It happens with everyone. You have survived the first bubble, and probably you have. So in short, just 20, 30 words, what would you advise to somebody who is just struggling with the loops and functions?
Shake it off. Shake off all that stuff. Never stop learning. Never stop asking questions, and all the worrying about this, worrying about the bubbles, worrying about technologies, AI, all this stuff. Shake it off, because all you have, and this is going to sound very mind-numbingly philosophical, whatever you want to say, but it has nothing, not just programming. Never stop. Never stop learning. Never stop asking questions. Shake off everything, because all you have is right now. All you have is right now. And the only thing that you can't get back is time. So make it worth something. And so worrying about what's going to happen in the future, and if that's stopping you from learning or from trying things or from advancing, you don't need to. No human is capable of predicting the future. If you're worried about things that happened in the past, guess what? They happened. You can't do anything about it. So take the moment that you have right now and make every single minute count and learn everything that you can, and never stop asking questions. Never stop asking why.
Thank you so much. It was such a great advice. And once again, I would like to thank you from the entire people who are watching this. Thank you so much for bringing in this jam-packed session and tons of knowledge that you have brought in. Thank you so much. And hey, everyone, if you forgot to hit that subscribe, hit that right now. And also, I'll put up a link in the description section. Go ahead, check out Wess's channel as well. He stream out a lot. You can ask him questions directly. I'll also link his Twitter in the bio section as well, in the description section. I'll also make an Instagram story about his Twitter and everything. So go follow him as well. It's a community. Follow everyone. That's how you actually learn and take different perspective. Never be shy away from following the people. It's so much of good that when you get into the community. Also, I'll throw in a link of the Discord server of the Appwrite. You can find me hanging around there as well. All the links will be in the description section, and I'll pin them up as well. Thank you so much for joining this and spending your time entire Saturday with me. That's something awesome. So thank you so much. Bye-bye, and I'll surely catch you up in another such video.
And thank you for having me.